So let's get into today's webinar, and we're going to be looking at some work that the Leicestershire Police team have been doing in order to replace a legacy system that was used to track force assets, mainly incapacitant sprays and the canisters that are used by officers to help them stay safe and of course to keep the public safe. So it's a really important subject today. Keeping a very accurate audit of how the incapacitants are used, who's got them, is a really vital part of maintaining public trust and our responsibilities within the police service. Many people won't not realise that the incapacitant sprays used by police officers are actually classified under Section 5, 1B of the 1968 Firearms Act. I had to look that up. And therefore must be treated with the same level of audit as more traditional firearms that we perhaps first think of when that act is mentioned. So today I'm joined by two members of the Do It team from Leicestershire Police, and I absolutely love the name of that team. It's John and Helen who are going to take us through their Track It solution, what they've come up with, and it's all built on the basic Microsoft 365 build that all forces have the capability of using. So I'm going to come to Helen first, and if I could first of all ask you, what does Do It stand for, and could you explain the challenge that you had in relation to your old legacy system?
Yes, of course. So Do It stands for Digital Optimization and Innovation Team. We're a very small team. There's myself, who's the program manager. I've got two developers, one project manager who does a little bit of development on the side, and a business analyst. So the main issue that we were trying to combat here was, as you've already mentioned, it was a legacy system. It was no longer supported, it was many years old, and it was really complex for users, and it was just an overall poor user experience. When we looked at it, we instantly could see that we could really simplify this for the front end users. And obviously it was important for us to be able to do that. Like you said, it's a Section 5 firearm. We need to be able to track and audit these assets. And as well, you've mentioned that the sprays have an expiry date, so we wanted to be able to incorporate expiry notifications, something that the current legacy system didn't have in place.
So Helen, I think that point about making sure the products are appropriately tracked is really important for the out of date. I don't think people sometimes realise that the incapacitant spray's effectiveness actually degrades over time. So having an out of date canister could mean it's less effective and result in potential injury or assault on a member of the police team, or not being able to protect the public as much as we want to. A lot of people who watch our webinars regularly will be aware of the work we've done around Operation Hampshire, where we're trying to track assaults and injuries that our officers sustain. Again, that's so we can reduce the time they lose when they're injured. So this is a really core safety issue that we're talking about here.
Yeah, and actually, as we were setting up the proof of concept, part of that involved an audit of current canisters, and we did find a number of expired canisters. So this has been a really important bit of work, not only rolling out the app itself, but it's also incorporated an audit of our current sprays.
So we'll go through the app in a second, and we'll get John and yourself to explain how it works. So the Track It solution has been developed to address that, and perhaps a little bit later we'll talk about some of the other potential uses. But could you give us a little bit of an overview of the process so we can actually see the solution in working?
Yeah, so what we've done is we've used very small QR code stickers which we've attached to all of our canisters, and that is the basis of the product. So John's just going to show you one now. So they're UV resistant, they are water resistant, they're tamper proof. So once they're stuck on, if somebody does try to peel them off, they come off in really tiny pieces, so you'd be there for a very long time. The proof of concept, they've been on canisters now for I think at least 2 to 3 months, and we've had no issues with the QR code stickers so far. And we did test them on some of our own devices, such as John's mobile phone, laptops, things that were going in and out of pockets, bags, a little bit more rough and tumble. And I think that QR code sticker's probably been on there 6 months plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Not any issues with them at all, have we?
That's excellent. So they're Bobby-proof as possible, given the challenging environment that these canisters will face on a daily basis. So John, perhaps you could start by sharing your screen and explain the process. And first, we're going to start off with in the stores department, where the incapacitated sprays actually are delivered to, and they're first tagged with the QR code. So this starts the process, and this will be a member of the team in the stores department who starts this bit off, won't it?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is not make this any more bureaucratic, or hopefully less bureaucratic than what we've got right now. So it should fit into the existing processes that stores normally have when they onboard things onto existing tracking systems. And obviously we have got this existing system at the moment. So what we're trying to do is to streamline that as much as possible. But what you can see right in front of you is the front screen of Trackit, which is the view that everyone sees. You'll have different functionality according to your role. So if you are in stores, you can get the ability to create assets and retire assets. Whereas if you are out in an area and are sort of more of an operational kind of user, you'll probably only have the ability just to transfer assets, because the things will already be in the system that then you can transfer from one place to another. But if I go into the create new assets down here, what we can see straight away is you can create a single asset, or you can create bulk assets. Now that's as a result of some of the feedback that we got, because when we first designed this, you could create one asset at a time. So you would basically stick a QR code onto something, you would assign the details, and I'll show you that just right now. So you would click scan. Now I'm not showing this on the mobile phone because this is a scanning QR codes is a mobile specific thing, which you can use this, and we've got some apps on our phones. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'll just show you as it would look from a laptop, but you can use this on laptops and from mobile phones. But if I just type in a QR code, so that one for example, it will then ask you what asset type are you creating. Now we will select this one here. You will already start seeing the benefits of this because you asset type here. I'm selecting this Capture 2 spray here, but you could pick whatever asset type you'd like to. The serial number, the expiry date, and again that links in very much to that point about making sure we keep track of when these things are expiring, and it has to be in the future. And as you go along, you will see that these red crosses are turning to green ticks. That's really important for that kind of user perspective to know exactly what data they're putting in is correct, or if there's any issues where they need to look at to make sure that the things are in right. Click a certain area, and then that tick box has been created. So normally it would be for supplies to create, click a tick box, and then you would create that asset. Now, as I say, this is creating that single asset, but when our sprays come to us in the organisation, they come in boxes of 12. So what we didn't want to do is to sort of say to stores, well, you now need to basically create that asset, put that QR code on, click tick, move on to the next one, create another asset, put a QR code on, add the serial number, click tick, and all the way through that 12. So what we've done is created this concept of bulk creation, which then moves it on a slightly different way. So it starts off the same way. You would select a QR code, the starting serial number, because these are all sequential serial numbers. How many assets you want to create. Now you can basically drag this selector as far as you want to. So click 12, similar kind of thing, expiry date in the future, whenever that might be, the creating location. Now when I click the next button, what this actually says to me is, right, now this serial number here needs this QR code, stick it on, tick the box, and it moves to a green tick. Now you basically do that process 12 times for the 12 assets, and what you will see at the bottom is the tick box, click tick, click tick. This will create 12 assets. You can click the tick box and it creates all those 12 assets into the system. So we've gone from that single asset creation to that bulk asset creation. And again, it's all about speeding up the process that stores are currently undertaking.
And this is a fantastic idea of example of user-centered design, isn't it? You've worked with the actual users who use their mobile phone. We're demonstrating today with an emulation on the desktop, but basically this is all mobile phone based handhelds. It's not needed to, you can do it in the most suitable place on the table where the stores are delivered. So of course now you've added it to the system. it needs to be allocated out to the station. And again, this is where the app's used by the stores assistants on their force mobile phone, and they can allocate into each individual canister as to where it's going and where it's going to be sent to. How does that bit work?
That's right. So we just simply click on the transfer asset. Again, you would normally scan it on the phone, but you can just basically pick a asset here. Let's pick one here. Tick box. So that says to me, scan this QR code. That's the little picture of the asset. That's the type of asset. It's currently located on one of our MPAs. Again, so this would be sent from stores out to an area, and then the area would distribute to the individual users. If I wanted to select, okay, I want to book this out, I wouldn't normally be booking out to myself, but if I wanted to book it out to myself for the purpose of the test, I just select myself from here for operational reasons, click the tick, and that then moves asset transfer. As you can see at the top there, gives you that kind of message there. And if I go back to the start, go to that little pop-up, we go back to the beginning, what you'll see there is now my assets, which was originally no assets assigned. You can quickly see that I've got an asset assigned to me. Now, any officer that logs on will see their assets right from that screen.
And again, this is where you've now done it from stores to station. So once it arrives in the station, it'll become a responsibility of one of the sergeants. They need to allocate it out to their team. So perhaps you could explain how the sergeant's view is slightly different, because they don't obviously have the bulk uploads or the upload. And how do they use their work mobile phone to allocate it out to a member of their team?
So in a very similar way. So when stores transfer an asset, they would be transferring an asset to, say, a location. So if I go back to my previous example, so AS1, which is currently to me, where I selected person before, and I picked a person from this list, I can click a location. And so stores will be sending it to, in this example, South Leicester MPA, which is our test police force area for operational reasons. And when we tick this one, it goes into their operational store, so more of like a frontline store. And then for the sergeants in South Leicester, then they allocate from the sort of canisters that are in their store, and then out to the area from there. So you can do location people all in the same view. And the purpose of that was to reduce the number of screens that we need to basically sort of teach people about. It's all very much the same process, whether you're allocating to locations or to people.
Now, we mentioned earlier when we were speaking to Helen that these products actually do expire, and you know we're focusing very much on this use case at the moment. We'll talk about other use cases in a little while. So when they upload it into the app, it's actually going into a system, into lists effectively, isn't it? So how does the system track when products are due to expire, and how are the end users notified that they can return it for safe disposal, ensuring that the officers have always got the effective equipment?
And this is exactly the beauty of this, the side effect really of creating Power App, is that list information is so valuable in such an accessible format that we can do all kinds of things with it. So a very simple Power Automate script that runs over that data to look at the expiry dates of all the canisters. And we made a business decision that we would send reminders at 14 days out from expiry date, and then 7 days. So the 14-day expiry date email or notification or whatever we want to do, currently it's an email, we'll send an email to the user or to the asset owner at that point in time to say, you have an asset which is about to expire in the next 14 days. Here's the expiry date. This is the canister number or the QR code number. Sort it, basically. And that's for them to then go and transfer it back to their sergeant and get issued with a new canister. Then the sergeant would then transfer that back to stores. So that's the 14-day expiry date. The 7-day, which is a little bit more kind of, come on, we're getting close to that expiry date, that would then have a similar kind of email, but goes to their supervisor as well to say, your staff member has got an out-of-date canister. Please enable them to sort this kind of thing. And this is something that we've not had before, which is why we've found these out-of-date canisters in the past, because people are needing to check their canister constantly. And we know that the ink on the bottom of these canisters does rub off over time. So people aren't even aware of their canister expiry date sometimes. So this is really giving the people the right information at the right time to make difference with it, which is crucial to these kind of things.
And of course, the process then also records when it's transferred back to stores and when it's retired and safely disposed of. So at any given time, you can actually check that all the products are valid and identify issues quite early on from the central position. So this has all been built on lists, and it's a really simple technology, and you've been using, again, the simple Power App solutions to make it very usable. And I noticed when we were discussing this, you've made the buttons as big as possible, because that's the feedback that we get. What do you see as the potential future integrations and use for this technology?
Well, we've already started on a version 2. And again, what we mentioned before about that kind of user-centered design, I'm really passionate. So my background is an analysis, and all of my sort of good work has always been about embedding myself with teams and actually understanding the use cases and what tweaks we can make to make lives easier. So a version of this where instead of actually disabling the create no asset and retire asset, where we've only got those operational buttons of transfer to a person, transfer to a location, search for a person, search for a location. So that concept of a big button, it will be a more specific big button. So you click a button, you know exactly what it's going to do, because then it makes that intuitive use of it much more simple. So we've already started doing that. But then clearly this concept lends itself to basically tracking anything you want to do in the organization, because we know that so many things expire, so many things need tracking in the organization. Things like, I showed my example there of my mobile phone with a QR code on it right there. We've got separate systems for tracking all assets in the organisation. Why? Why do we not have one place where currently where you can see my asset of one capture spray? Why have I not got my capture spray, my body armour, my mobile phone, my laptop, all in one place, all trackable? We can audit in one place. So we've already got test cases out there with some trainee officers on their body armour, because body armour also expires, which is something completely new to me. I did not realise that the panels in body armour does expire. That's something that we genuinely don't know what the expiry date of some of these body armour is out there. So on some of our new starters, we've got QR codes on those, and they are in the background of Track It at the moment, just to test the concept. And again, emailing people because of expiry dates, it's all the same concept really. So yeah, there's lots and lots of applications for this.
And Helen, coming to you, there's loads of other solutions. We've had a suggestion in the chat already. I think, could we use this for handheld radio tracking to comply with the audit and the Home Office regulations? But you've been looking at other ways that we could do this, and potentially the officers having their own access to each of these apps as well, so they can see their own assets.
Yeah, so one of the other things that we're looking at doing in the future for this is for officers pairing themselves up with vehicles. So if they're booking a vehicle out for the day, there's a QR code on the vehicle, they can scan it, all of the information around mileage, vehicle checks, the equipment that's in the vehicle, that can all go onto the app as well. So we're looking at that. But alongside this, we're also capturing so much information that we can then push into Power BI, and we'll have so much more management performance information than we've ever had before. So a good example is, at the moment, we've not really got a reliable way of knowing when and how much of the spray that we need to place an order for. So the management information in the background of this will be able to accurately order the correct amount of spray at the right amount of time. So we either don't run out or we don't order too much and run the risk of that possibly expiring while it's in our stores.
And there's another thing where I'm currently working on a Power BI report which looks at basically using niche as our crime and command control system. I'm looking at bail, I'm looking at all the outstanding things for an officer. So your outstanding VCOPs, your outstanding bail, your outstanding an OIC in a case. So it pre-filters. So when you log on to that Power BI report, it shows you what you need to know about. That's crime stuff, that's the occurrence side of things. But why would we not then sort of put this data alongside it? Because it's accessible. Alongside HR, we can start merging all these data sets together to give a person the whole knowledge about what they need to know about today, all in one place.
A daily to-do list, almost.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And this is the power of using the technology that we've got. And this is a fantastic example of the digital strategy in action, is that we're using the technology we've got, we're using the data we've already got, because you don't have to put officers' names in, because it's all linked into the Azure platform, so we know who's where, etc. All those things are working really well. And it's great to hear that you're moving about version 2 of the app at the moment, and there's some feedback on that and moving forward. Now, what we're going to be actually doing, of course, is bringing this to the wider benefit of forces, so that they can actually borrow with pride, is the old phrase. And we're just going to pop onto screen now a QR code that, again, we thought we'd better use a QR code, or there's a bit.ly. The app will be made available in the PDS Solutions catalogue as soon as we get to version 2, when we've done all the testing and improvements, because I think it's fair to say the force has done its proof of concept and is in rollout, and we're moving forward. So if you go to the QR code or put that bit.ly in, or just send a message through the contact us, we'll register you up, and as soon as this app's available, then you'll be able to download it. And again, it's not an off-the-shelf product. This is the framework, so you can apply this into your own force, and you could use this as a basis for building it forward and moving that on. So Richard, perhaps you want to cover about how we're going to get to that version 2 and bring in the more colleagues and more ideas on how we can use this approach.
Yeah, fabulous. Thanks, Dave. I just think it's a really beautiful, simple solution, this, which has so many applications. But as John's alluded to, there is going to be further development over the next few months. I'd really love forces to get their hands on it right now, but I think the right thing to do is wait and see, have a look at those minor innovations that are going to be added to the solution over the next few months, and we'll make it available in the solution catalogue for all forces, free to download in due course. And as Dave's already mentioned, there will be a form there too where you can express an interest to get hold of this. But I think for me, and there's a comment in the Q&A just saying that asking how do we get a demo of this live into their own particular force. And I think the steps are, firstly, we've got a wonderful facility here. We've got a half-an-hour webinar that you can share with your stakeholders in force and outline the solution. Then when the solution's available in the solution catalogue, work with your business change team and your IT function and download that solution into your force, and you can start having a play around with it and having a look at it. But absolutely, at that point, I think it'd be really useful to link in with your local engagement manager and see how we can assist you in delivering that locally. And what we don't want to do is put lots and lots of additional pressure on John and Helen and have them people knocking at their door continuously for demos and presentations. We'll screen them from that, and we'll help you locally to deliver that solution if it's something that you think your stakeholders would really value and operationally and business based benefit significantly from. David.
And of course, you can get in touch with your business engagement manager through the contact us form. Get in touch at any time. And it's perhaps a timely reminder, we'll come to a couple more questions about how you can access the solutions that are available, or you can pass them on again through the business engagement manager. The solutions are all published on our PDS website. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean you can get them. The PDS website just provides access to them. You can see what we've already got published and what's available. If you're a member or a guest of our collaboration channel, then all you have to do is click on there and you'll be able straight through and be able to access more and more detail around it, all the documentation. If you don't and you get this sort of notification, head back to the website, fill in the little form for police users only. You can then get access and be able to get into it's a simple form to fill it in, and then you'll get into the actual solutions catalogue, which is buried in the force collaboration space, and you'll be able to access that. And again, you do need to be a 365 administrator to actually install or use this. So you, again, work with, if you're a business unit, you can work with your IT team in force to get this as much out of this as possible. Just going to head to a couple of questions that come in. So Jackie's asking, what happens if the serial number isn't in sequence? How do you manage that, John?
So currently, the ones that are created at the moment come in a box, which are all in sequence. So that whole concept of bulk creation relies on in sequence. We have got, we are trialing some handheld scanners. So similar to the supermarket kind of scanners at the moment. So yeah. The future would be, and that's a thought I've already had, is scan 12 QR codes independent of sequence and assign them to serial numbers independently. So there will be a way around that, but currently the use case is sequential serial numbers.
And again, this is a proof of concept that you've built, and it's opened your eyes to what else you could do. There's potential possibly for using the QR codes that are already attached to devices, such as radios. They so often have a unique QR code. We may be able to build that in the future. Another question's come in, and Richard's already answered this one a little bit, is this Dataverse or a Teams app or a Canvas app? And where are the lists and where's the data held?
Yeah, so this is just a standard Canvas app with SharePoint lists in the background. This is completely open. There's no premium connectors or anything involved with this.
And Vincent asked about, is there any licensing costs, or is it simply a power app? And again, Richard's come in there. It's an E3, E5 license pro. Forces have got this capability. It's within the Blueprint solutions. The data's being held in the Force anyway, as it normally would be, isn't it? Brilliant. Okay, so Helen, question for you. Thinking about cost avoidance and replacing the old system. That's been a benefit, of course. It would have been a very expensive to replace that system, but is it better for the officers as well? And is this where your Do It team is working?
Yeah, so obviously all officers have got mobile devices anyway, so we've not had to roll out devices for them to be able to scan things. Our current legacy system will be retired next year when that goes out of license, so we've not got to renew the license costs for that. As John's already mentioned, we haven't used any premium connectors, so it was free for us to develop, obviously apart from John's time, and we've had to purchase the QR code stickers, but they're relatively inexpensive if you bulk order those as well.
Yeah, absolutely, because you don't need to buy specific QR codes for specific products. They're just a serial number effectively, aren't they, to trigger the data. If you're looking at Star Schema, this is the piece of data set that helps to join things together. A nice question in here of were there any security concerns taken into account, particularly regarding the use of a QR code, aside from damage or removal? But there's no actual data in a QR code, is there?
So all they're doing is replicating a number, a unique number. So we have AS at the start for asset, and then a sequential number from 1 to whatever we want to do. And we did that primarily because we want this to be as open as possible, so we can use it for looking at our sprays and the wider use going forward. There's nothing else security-wise considered.
Brilliant. We are running out of time. I can see Len's question, and I'm sure the team will pick that one up around how we can work together with Warwickshire and the work they're doing around their app, and it's one that we do plan to feature very soon. Fantastic example of what you can do with what you've got. Saved a fortune potentially in replacing an outdated system, but more importantly, it's made it easier to use, giving you better data, better information, and perhaps a springboard for where we could go further. And that's what we want forces to talk to us about and see how they can again get more value out of these things. We have got an extra webinar scheduled in for next week, so if you can join us next week, we've got a webinar on vehicle stop application, which is getting ahead of the curve again. We've got a mandated data return to do next year in relation to vehicle stops. So this app has been developed and replaces an existing legacy solution that's in place that uses Pronto. It not only improves the user experience, but importantly enables the force to capture the required data that they need to provide next year. This year it's voluntary, so if you can join us next week, we'll tell you more about that. Then we are going to take a break over the summer from the live webinars, but it doesn't mean you can't access the webinars at any time. You can go back, watch all the webinars that there's well over 100 webinars that are available for you to go back to. So please do take a time to have a look through the content over the summer break, and then we're back on the 6th of September. I think it's the 6th of September to get straight into the firearms app that we want to do. It's actually the 5th of September. There you go. And then we're into the digital summit. So we do hope you can join us and keep on board. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you think of our webinars. Get involved as much as you can. A really big thank you to John and Helen for joining us today. It's been a fantastic webinar, really inspiring that what you can do with taking a problem and solving it with the users, using the data and really leveraging the capabilities that we've now got in policing. So thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again very soon.